One of the wonderful things that this spiritual community does in celebration of Aloha Sunday is it takes a look at an ancient Hawaiian proverb that the scholar Mary Kavenapukui put together in a book called Olelo no Eau. This month's proverb is Ka'apa ka manu hulu'ole. We have the opportunity to take a look at this wonderful proverb and see how we can use it as a spiritual tool in our life. The translation is, Ka'apa means toss and turn or spasm. Ka means the, manu means bird, hulu means feather, and ole means not or no more. So the literal translation is, a bird without feathers is helpless. And if you think about a bird writhing on the ground, yes, that would certainly be a bird that couldn't fly and would therefore be helpless. The life application of this proverb can be very powerful in our lives. It was to the ancient Hawaiians because the ancient Hawaiians considered that the feathers of individual birds carried a special energy. And when the Hawaiians added this energy into their lives, it changed them and it changed their lives. Feathers were collected, they were put into cloaks and capes that were worn by the chiefs. They were created and crafted into standards and statues. Regular people like you and I took bits of feathers to honor their family spirit, to honor their amakua as a way to encourage and invite change in whatever challenging situation they were in. Now, metaphysically, feathers represent thoughts. So when we choose to collect these feathers and collect these new thoughts, let's say thoughts of power and wisdom and strength, then we begin to notice that in our lives, we are making more confident choices. We are making wiser choices, and we are actually experiencing the strength, the endurance, and the capacity that we need to have in order to move us through our life experiences that are challenging. Now, one of the things about these proverbs is they have a deeper meaning. The Hawaiians call it a kauna. And if we were to look at this wonderful proverb that already says if we think new thoughts, we can change our circumstances and events, and we look at that deeper meaning, we can see how we can get to the real nitty-gritty of our lives. Ka'apa also means the one who is late, the one who is tardy, the one who's wasting time. Manu also means expansion or growth. So if you think of a boat, if you want to expand and grow your boat, you will add these end pieces on. So manu is about expanding. Hulu also means esteem. So the esteem we would have for our grandparents or the esteem we would have for a chief. And then ole means negative. So what it then means is a desire for expansion with negative esteem is a waste of time. So all that magnificent life that we're wanting out there, all that change we're looking for in our spiritual growth and expansion, all that love and joy and peace that we sing about when we're choosing heaven, we're not able to sustain that growth and we're not able to sustain that expansion and that change if we have a negative self-image, if we have low self-esteem, or if we are having trouble finding our own love for ourselves. In fact, it'll just really be a waste of time. So if we want change in our lives that's positive and good, we need to change the way we feel about ourselves. And if we want change in our lives that's expansive and wonderful, we need to change what we think. For when we change our thinking, we change our lives. This is what we call in unity the law of mind action, and there's nothing more fundamental to unity than this great truth. If you want to change your life, change your thinking. In fact, The Unity movement was founded because one woman applied this law to her life and healed her body. Her name was Myrtle Fillmore. She was born in 1845, and through her growing up years, all her early years and into her adulthood, she was told that she had a sickly body and that she had weak lungs. When she was 41 years old, she was told she had less than 6 months to live. In desperation, she went out into her world there in Kansas City, Missouri, happened upon a lecturer named Dr. E.B. Weeks, who uttered the phrase, "You are a child of God, and therefore you do not inherit sickness. You are a child of God, and therefore you do not inherit sickness." This gave Myrtle new thoughts, new feathers, if you will, to put in her thinking cap. She then began the process of apologizing to her body, telling her body and her organs and her life centers that she was sorry, that she thought them anything less than whole and perfect. And then she affirmed again and again and again that she was a child of God and she did not inherit sickness. And it took her 2 years to heal. So what was a miracle for Myrtle is actually a practical outworking of the law. She wanted to change her life, so she changed her thinking. This is what Myrtle said. "I want everybody to know about this beautiful true law and to use it. It's not a new discovery, but when you use it and get the fruits of health and harmony, it will seem new to you, and you will feel that it is your own discovery." How beautiful, how powerful, how wonderful that we have something that we can put on, feathers that we can put on and change our lives. Now, Myrtle's experience happened almost 125 years ago, and I went to the internet because I thought there might be something that, spoke to us in contemporary language. And I found this recipe for life, recipe for loving ourselves. And yeah, do you think we're going to go through all 22? No, not really. We're going to go through a few. I did put all 22 in your bulletin, but there are wonderful, powerful ways to look at that piece of ourselves that needs to expand and grow so that when we think new thoughts, we can change our life. So number one, it came from, I want you to know, it came from a website called Pearls of Wisdom, and you can go there. They have lots of wonderful things. Number one, take full responsibility for your life. Stop blaming others. See yourself as the cause of what happens to you. We could have started with an easier one. But the truth is, if we can't start taking responsibility for our lives, if we can't stop blaming others, if we can't see ourselves as the cause, then the rest of them really don't matter. So what Myrtle did was she started taking responsibility for the thoughts that she held in her mind, the thoughts that she put into her consciousness. What Myrtle did was she stopped blaming her illness on the story that she had been told her entire life. What Myrtle did was she started to see herself as the cause of her experience and not the effect of. And what happened was she changed her condition. Myrtle did this, and we can too. Here's a wonderful affirmation. I choose to think positive thoughts of healing and wholeness. Let's say this together. I choose to think positive thoughts of healing and wholeness. Number 3, stop terrorizing yourselves with your thoughts. Be gentle and kind and patient with yourself. Now, I really do want a show of hands. How many of you in your whole life, like your whole life, have ever made a mistake? Okay, see, that was easy. Now, don't raise your hand for this part. Have you ever noticed that sometimes we make ourselves absolutely crazy thinking thoughts about that mistake? And in fact, often we find ourselves stewing over that incident. We find ourselves analyzing it and scrutinizing it and examining it and re-examining it and stewing some more and tying ourselves literally in knots. And some of us are world-class knot tiers. But this recipe for self-love is an invitation to, in the name of love, to stop. You know, like the Supremes. Stop in the name of love before you break my heart. Think it over. You know? It's like, think it over and then get over it. Right? So this is our invitation. To be kind and patient and gentle with ourselves. Myrtle did this. She plucked those feathers that didn't serve her, those thoughts that were negative, out of her consciousness. She did this, and we can too. This is our affirmation. I stop thinking negative thoughts in the name of love. Together? I stop thinking negative thoughts in the name of love. Take a breath. We're skipping to number 9. Avoid comparing yourselves with others. Remember, it's who we are, not what we do, that's important. The key phrase is, it's who we are. Just this morning, we affirmed that we are conscious creations of God. Myrtle Fillmore said, I am a child of God. All the time around here, we say, I am a beloved expression of God. Of God means that God is our source. When we turn our thoughts and use the divine mind, use God as our source, then all of our thinking becomes holy. All of our thinking is filled with divine love. All of our thinking is filled with divine wisdom. Myrtle Fillmore did this, and we can too. Here's the affirmation. I source my thinking in divine mind. Together, I source my thinking in divine mind. And finally, we stop at number 11, even there's 22 in your bulletin. Frequently take deep breaths. Discover the benefit and pleasure of breathing fully. This is a reminder, an invitation for us to remember that change takes time. There's an adage that goes, Rome wasn't built in a day. Myrtle Fillmore's healing took 2 years. Her husband and the other co-founder of Unity, his healing took almost 40 years. We get there. We manifest that experience that's a part of our spiritual journey, one breath at a time. Christina Baldwin has a marvelous 3-part breathing practice that I'd like us to take into meditation. The first breath is to let it go. The second breath is to be right here, present in this moment. And then the third breath is to ask the question, what's next? So I invite you to close your eyes. And with a breath, let it go. And then with another breath, be right here in this moment. And then with another breath, ask yourself, what's next? What's next on this spiritual journey? What's next for expansion into magnificence? What's next for you? And then with another breath, we let it go. And with the second breath, we presence ourselves right here. And with a third breath, we ask ourselves, what's next in our relationships? What's next in those relationships that are intimate and close? What's next in our friendships? And what's next in our relationship with our community? And we take another first breath to let it go. A second breath to presence ourselves right here. And a third breath to ask ourselves, what's next for us in the world? What's next for us in creating a community, a global presence of joy and of deep peace? And with a final breath, we enter into a time of silence.